In this video, I'm giving you guys a double feature of both Invisible Locks and Invisible Braids. Here are the Invisible Braids and here are the Invisible Locks that we're going to start this tutorial off with. And here's how I started. Like most protective hairstyles, you want to start off on clean, pre-stretched hair. And I am using the Pure Neat Braid braiding gel to create the structure for the lock. The difference between the two is this one has more of a twisted twist at the root, like an Invisible Lock. And the reason why this hairstyle is really dope is because you get to create the look of locks without actually getting locks. So that is why I like it. But I start off with clean parts and you section each section in a box and then you split that box in half. So you want to make sure the box is pretty big. And you do need a lot of product. That is probably the #1 difference between the two hairstyles. When it comes to these invisible locks, you want to really make sure you are putting enough braiding gel around the whole section that you are going to twist. And then you just form your hands and you just twist downward all the way down. And this hairstyle can be a little bit difficult for a beginner. And that is why I wanted to show you the double feature with the braids. So you just twist all the way down. And you want to really make sure you got clips and all those things. You see I have some clip behind this part that I'm doing. Just to get any flyaways out of the way and just make sure everything is laying the way that it needs to. And you just want to make sure that you really make sure it is detangled before you start that process. Then you twist the second part. Once you do both, you're going to then take those twists and twist them together. And I am twisting to my right. And I'm doing it nice and tight. Not too tight, but just enough. And then you're going to see me unclip. And I go a little ways down once I get off the scalp. But as you do the twist, you want to rope twist it all the way down until you get done with this section. But you want to make sure it's detangled and rope twist. And you're going to be needing product as you go. You can use a Cream of Nature mousse or you can use the braiding gel. It is enough braiding gel that it is just sliding through and making it very easy to just keep going down. But you see every so often I'll go and I'll touch and I'll rope twist it all the way down after I get the braiding gel, after I add more braiding gels to my tips of my fingers. So you just keep twisting all the way down. If you have blunt ends, I would definitely say you might want to use a rubber band like I'm going to be using towards the ends just to ensure that it will not unravel. But you want to just continue to rope twist all the way down. And again, everything that I use will be in the description box below, but you want to go all the way down, just rope twisting it until you're done. And then you're going to take a rubber band and put that rubber band at the end to ensure that it is not going to come down or unravel or anything like that. If you are enjoying this content, just make sure you hit that subscribe button so you can get more videos like this of tutorials. Hit that notification bell so you see when I'm posting and continue to watch. But as you can see, I'm just putting the rubber band on and I don't do it too tight because you don't want to break the person's hair off. You got to remember the tip is the oldest part of your hair. Now I'm about to show you guys again how I created the invisible lock. But you see that each row is very like a thick amount. And again, it's 5 rows from top to bottom as far as like how many rows of invisible locks you're going to do. But you're just going to do the same process that you did before. And instead of using the rat tail, get you an unbrush. I didn't have an unbrush yet at this time when I did this hairstyle. But you definitely want to get a detangling type of tool. And make sure you comb from the tip to the root. I do a little bit from the root only because that is the part that I need to make sure is really nice and sleek. This is one of the reasons why I say you want to have pre-stretched hair, blown out hair when doing this hairstyle, because if you're doing it in its natural curly state, it can really tangle up some things. So that is why I say do this hairstyle on blow dried hair. And again, I'm just twirling to the right. Back in the day, they used to call them twisties. So you're kind of doing like a little twisty onto the scalp and a little bit off of the scalp. And then you're going to clip that in place until you're done with the second lock twist. I do want to say that this hairstyle lasted a month and a couple of weeks. I would say so, a month and a half. And that is as long as you're tying it up with a do-rag and not a bonnet, a do-rag or a scarf. And he also wore a shower cap when showering and bathing. Yes, you can go swimming, but be prepared for product to be coming out and it won't probably look as fresh after. But that also depends on how you maintain it. Some people get wet and then they don't tie it up afterwards and then it doesn't last that long. So as far as longevity, it all depends on how you maintain your hair. You can still swim, but it's all about aftercare with that. So yeah. But I'm just showing you again how I created these twists. And really what sets them apart and difference is just the technique of how they are done when it comes to it. But I do want to say that the right twist for me overlays the left twist. And I'm getting out of focus there, but if you notice that when I do the rope twist, the right lock goes on top and then I just rope twist all the way down to the end. how it looked completely done. It turned out super nice. You see, you have to make sure that the parts are nice and clean. Let's move on to Invisible Braid. What's up, y'all? In this video, I'm showing you guys how I created this Invisible Braids, better known as Invisible Locks, but it is a difference because I am going to be braiding. This is the perfect hairstyle if you do not want to commit to traditional locks, but you want that lock look. But yeah, I am starting off with clean, pre-stretched hair, blow-dried hair. Right here, you see me creating the first row. It will be 3 rows in total all the way around, but I am creating the first row. If you would like to make it smaller, you can. I also have a video of how to create the foundation for rows when creating the Invisible Lock hairstyle. But in this section, it will be 3 invisible braids slash invisible locks. So yeah, but they're not going to be super tiny again, simply because I want takedown to be simple and not as hard, especially because this is a guy and some guys just aren't good at taking their hair down. They usually might pay for someone to do it, or they do it themselves, and it can be a bit confusing. So I want to make sure that it is not confusing at all. Parting and having the correct portions for this hairstyle is very important. So right now you see me kind of pre-parting just each section to make sure that it is all the same. And I'm a bit of a parting freak. I will part until no end to make sure that it is nice and neat and straight. So right now I am creating the first section of Invisible Lock slash braid. I'm just really making sure that I'm cleaning up the part before I start the actual braid on the root. And I'm also just making sure I'm sectioning off. So right now I am about to start again the braid on the root. And then I'm going to transition later on in the video the 2-strand twist from the 2 braids that you see that I'm about to do going down. There will be 6 braids in total in this row. Because this is a natural hairstyle, I will not be adding in any braiding hair of any sort. I did have a video that I did about a couple years ago that I'll link in here showing how I did it with extensions. So if you are interested in that, but for the most part, this is all natural and I'm just braiding it down. I'm sorry if the camera is a little bit out of focus. As I continue, it will focus more. It's just, I'm trying to show you guys at least the introduction of just creating the section, especially on the back row. And for each pair, that will then lead into a 2-strand twist, which I will be showing later. If you would like to know the products and tools that I use to create this hairstyle, just head on down to the description box. I will have my Amazon storefront link below. So you guys can just go ahead and tap that and order all these products. It's so much more convenient when you could just pick up the stuff at your door instead of having to go to the beauty supply store, especially if you are a busy hairstylist like I am. Well, now I'm about to show you again how to do it. I didn't show too much of the same repetitive notion as far as doing this entire hairstyle, simply because, again, I will be pinning in also in the description how to create the foundation for each row, and you just rinse and repeat until you get to the part where you do the 2-strand twist. So yeah. And if you are finding value in this content and really enjoying this tutorial, please hit that subscribe button. Make sure you like and comment if this tutorial really helped you create this hairstyle. And right now you see me just braiding in the top part. This will only be 2 braids. I do want to say that if your client has thicker hair, I would actually recommend doing smaller braids. But because his hair is more on the fine side, it's not super thick, not super thin, but it's just right. I kind of did the braids as far as how many braids based off of the thickness of his hair. But if your client again has thick hair, you want to make sure that you do smaller braids, which will lead to more, but they will be more full and it won't be as bulky of a look. So I hope that helped Also, this hairstyle will last at least a month and a half. And then after that, I will recommend taking it down and, of course, cleaning your hair and preparing for the next hairstyle that you plan on getting. Because you don't want to keep a hairstyle in too long. And while you're wearing this hairstyle, you want to make sure that you are moisturizing and oiling it on a regular basis, at least once a week, just to make sure that your hair is staying nice and healthy while wearing this protective style. When you are showering or bathing, I would recommend wearing a shower cap, just to make sure that you're not getting it wet. I'm not saying that you cannot get your hair wet, because you definitely can while wearing this hairstyle. But if you want longevity in this hairstyle, I will recommend protecting it when showering and bathing. You can go swimming and then allow it to air dry. And then, of course, as you should every night, whether you are swimming or not, wear a do-rag to bed every single night, because that will also ensure that you have longevity when wearing this hairstyle. And you see right here, I am just finishing up another section of braids. Again, every two braids of cornrows, that will be considered a pair, and that is what we're going to be using shortly to create the two-strand twist. Now that I'm done with all of the braiding, I am using the unbrush and the Cream of Nature Argan Oil Mousse to now create the two-strand twist. And I am just twisting all the way down to the right. And you will see me move his head because he just was talking and really getting very passionate while I was doing this hairstyle. And there's nothing wrong with that. I was not hurting him at all. He was really trying to keep his head up, which was great, because when you're doing twists, you don't want your client leaning into you. You want to be against each other in a way where you're kind of twisting the opposite way of how their head is being held up. So it is important that you are not leaning as the client into the twist, because it will mess it up. You want to be against and kind of pulling in the opposite direction your head needs to be, or just opposite of the twisting going downward. Last thing, that I have pumped the mousse all over, just because I want the hair to kind of revert back, but not really, because I want it to be more of a juicy twist. So that is why I kind of pumped the mousse all around, gave a couple pumps, and then I detangle before I twist, because you do not want to have tangled up twists. That could really be a disaster when taking down, and just cause a lot of breakage and things like that. So you want to make sure it's detangled before you twist. And I just use the unbrush, because the unbrush is my favorite tool, I will have to say, when doing any type of detangling, because one, it does not hurt the client, and two, it just goes right through, especially when the client's hair is wet. And I do like to pin these with a clip that on the tip, because it kind of weighs it down and keeps it where it's still stretched instead of shrinking completely up once the mousse dries, because it is some type of water or liquid, that can cause your client hair to shrink. So the clips is what keeps it way down, still giving it that stretch but natural juicy look as far as twist. And I just twist each pair together. It's pretty easy and it turns out super nice in the end. But that is pretty much what I am doing right now. I am just detangling and then I'm twisting down. This part went so quick because I am doing two at a time. And I knew this is where I was going to get the maximum time of just getting it all done. And I love how the twist turned out, just nice and juicy. And you can kind of tell his curls are popping before I start to twist. And I've done this before in other videos, so if you want to see a slowed down version, just let me know in the comments below. I do want to say that if you are trying to achieve this hairstyle and your curl texture is not as kinky, not in the 4C realm, or even like a 3B realm or 3-ish realm, I would say that I would braid the two together instead of twisting it. But now I've completed it. You see that I'm oiling his scalp all the way through, just making sure it is nice and moisturized. You won't have to think about this part for at least a week or two because your hair does develop its own and makes its own oils when wearing a protective style. So you don't want to overly oil your hair when getting your hair done because you have oil glands in your follicles that will keep your hair moisturized also. So he won't have to worry about this for at least a week or two. But I'm just going through and really making sure that it's nice and moisturized. And here is the finished product. It turned out super nice. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. And if you want to see some other tutorials, here they are right here. Go check them out right now. See you on the next one. Peace and hair grease. Bye.